Hello, hello. How is everybody? I hope you're doing well. Oh, look at that hair. Get that fixed over here. I swear I brushed it all this morning. Just looking a little poofy on one side. Oh, okay. It's Tip Tuesday. Let me know if you can hear me okay. I am using my headphones today. It's really, really gross outside. Luckily it's not raining too hard, so I can still be outside on my porch to do my live. I got my coffee. Hello, Ellen. Yes, it's at least nice. It's not too hot, so I can wear my sweatshirt, drink my hot coffee, and let everybody start to join in before we dive right in to today's Tips and Tricks Tuesday. I don't have crochet with me today because I have notes. So I'll have my notes and we're going to go through some of that. But I've got some great resources for you guys in the description box, all about copyright. And this is going to be just a great little video overview of what I've been going through and some of the things that I've dealt with when it comes to copyright as a creator, as a maker, you know, business owner, all that fun stuff. So give it a few more minutes. I put a reminder on Instagram with a swipe up, so hopefully people see that and come join us. I know my YouTube presence is continuing to grow slowly, bringing people in, coming over to the YouTube side. Okay, so I'll go ahead and dive in and give you guys a little background as to why I wanted to make today's video to be about copyright. I think it was 2 days ago, I woke up and I had a message from someone on Instagram saying that they felt like someone had copied one of my designs. And I'm actually wearing my hooker sweatshirt today, so you guys can see this was my original design. My original, it was one of my very first items that I sold as a sticker, sold on apparel. I was really proud of it because I've never seen myself as being super artistic, like drawing and sketching and things like that, which is why I started doing crochet and photography, because I felt like those were a little more natural for me to design and to take the photographs and to frame, you know, frame subjects. But when it came to drawing, I always struggled because I never felt like things were fully finished. I turned on the YouTube notifications for your videos. IG lives can get so cluttered. Yes, no, I agree. So I'm hoping that this is a good option to have this as a YouTube live on my Tuesdays. But yeah, so this was my first design for crocheters. Like I said, I was really proud of it, excited about it. It got a lot of love. People really, really liked the design. They gave me a lot of great feedback. And so that's what led to me creating the other two tarot card designs that I have, which is the knitter and the seamstress. So those are kind of my fiber art tarot card series, and it's something that I've talked about. At some point, I would love to grow that line and have a few more, like the spinner, you know, things like that. So, you know, that's something I'm working on. But I had someone send me a message on Instagram saying, hey, I think someone copied your design. And she sent me a link and I went to it. And when I saw it, hello, Nancy. But I went to it, and honestly, the design was different enough that I felt like, you know, I don't own the idea of a hooker tarot card, you know, so if someone else creates their own version of the card, calls it the hooker, you know, and changes it up and makes it their own, I'm totally fine with that. I feel like we all have the space, you know. I always like the comparison of the cereal aisle in the grocery store. There's room for all of us. There's room for all of us to get creative. and make things and sell things. So that didn't bother me. But when that happened, I said, maybe I should go on Etsy and just do a little search and see if there are any other Hooker Tarot card designs popping up. So I can kind of see what my competition is, see what people are doing, and see if I've kind of sparked a movement, to create these items. So when I searched on Etsy, come to find out, there were 2 sellers on Etsy selling my exact design. So literally this like picture perfect, exactly the same as mine, stuck on a t-shirt. And I was pretty frustrated when I saw it. I think emotions started going and I'm like, what am I going to do? And the good news is the job that I had before I left to work on Pink Sheep full-time was with Professional Photographers of America, also known as PPA. And PPA had a whole department that was dedicated to fighting for improved copyright protection for small creators. And that doesn't just mean photographers, that means anyone, musicians, writers, anyone who creates these smaller works, not large corporations or large companies, but small individual people who create things and depend on copyright protection for their livelihood. That's how you make your money. So I knew a little bit more about copyright than I did in the past, for sure. And one of the things that came up when I was letting people know, there were a couple people that I told immediately of like, I can't believe this is happening. I'm frustrated. I'm going to have to spend all day today, going through and taking action. The good thing is I knew that under the current copyright law in the US, and you may know this or not, you do not have to register your items or your products in order for them to be protected. So you don't, and sorry about that phone ring. I thought it was on silent. See if I can turn that all the way down. Now it doesn't want to. Oh, it's not going to let me. Okay, fine then. All right, so you don't have to register your items in order for them to have copyright protection. Just the act of you putting something out there that is unique and your own automatically covers you under the current copyright law. So you are protected. The difference is if you want to fight it in court, you need to register your copyright. You need to register for a copyright for that item. So for me, and you don't have to do it immediately. So if I had decided, okay, I'm going to go after these people, if they don't remove these listings, I'm going to take them to court. I'm going to get, financial compensation for any profit that they made selling my designs. I would have to go in, register for a copyright for this design before I could take any legal action. So that's where that difference is. You are protected. Your item is copyright, but you're not going to be able to fight it unless you register your copyright. So that was the big difference. And two of the things that you can do without having to take legal action were the things that I did. So before I get into what I did in response to finding out about these things, I'll tell you a little bit more about what happened. So like I said, I went onto Etsy and I found 2 different sellers who were selling this design, my Hooker Tarot card design, the exact design, not a derivative, not something similar that they created. It was the exact design, selling them on t-shirts on Etsy. And so I said, well, I feel like I need to Google this and see if it's anywhere else. Turns out that there was a seller on Redbubble who was also selling my design. There's a seller on eBay who was also selling my design. And not only were they selling my Hooker design, they were selling my tarot card design on t-shirts on eBay. So the good news is most of those websites have some kind of avenue for you to report a listing for being copyright infringement. But the sad thing is when I Googled my design, so if I go into Google and I type in Hooker Tarot card, this design has somehow made it onto some really obscure t-shirt websites that I'm not really comfortable enough even going to try to figure out how to get the listings taken down, because I'm not sure how spammy the websites are, because you have to be really careful. You know, if it's some obscure name of a website, I'm probably not even going to click on it because I don't want the possibility of that being, you know, having viruses or doing things to my computer. So I decided, you know, there are only so many things that I can control. You have to know as a creative person that there are going to be people out there who are going to try to copy your work or who are going to try to profit off of your hard work. And you may not be able to change all of that, you know. So I decided, let me just control what I can control. Let me do what I know how to do. And that was focusing on the websites that were larger and more established and more visited websites, the major platforms like eBay. You know, I didn't look at Amazon, but I probably need to look at Amazon. But eBay, Etsy, and Redbubble, I know are platforms that are focused on smaller sellers, smaller creatives, and have some kind of avenue for copyright infringement protection. So the first thing that you can do, this is the first thing I did before you do anything, you can just message the seller. So this is the first step that I took. I sent a message to the Etsy sellers. There were two. I sent a message to the eBay seller, and I did not send a message to the Redbubble seller because I don't have an account on Redbubble. But even if you don't have an account, you can still do the copyright infringement form. So I sent the message, and my message was pretty straight and to the point. It wasn't mean. I tried not to be mean. I tried to be understanding, you know, give them the benefit of the doubt that it wasn't nefarious. You know, my hope is that they probably Googled tarot card designs and somehow mine popped up on Google, and they may have thought this is just a free use image. It's not something that someone spent a lot of time creating, which is crazy. But, you know, again, benefit of the doubt. And I told them the design that you are selling is my original artwork. And I asked them that they remove the listing because I would like to not take any legal action against them for selling my original artwork. I would just rather stop this right where it is here, have them take the listing down. And that was pretty much it. Like short, sweet, to the point, asking them to remove the listing so that I don't have to take any kind of legal action. Now, during that time, I actually went ahead into the Etsy system, and I'm realizing now I probably wouldn't have needed to at this point. I could have just sent the messages first and then waited on the response. So the second step was to go into Etsy and Redbubble and use their copyright infringement tool. So they actually have a form that you can fill out, and you describe the infringement, you put the listings in there, you describe the work that's yours, the original work that's yours. And then you submit the form. And then the teams from Etsy and Redbubble, they will go through the forms, make sure that everything matches up. And then at that time, they will either choose to remove the listings or not. So in my case, on Etsy, the first person got back to me and said, I'm so sorry, I'm going to remove the listing. And that was actually pretty quick. So that's the best case scenario. The best case scenario is you reach out to the person, they come back to you and they say, you know, I'm sorry, I really didn't realize, you know, I pulled this image off of Google. I didn't even think about the fact that it might be someone else's work. You know, I'll remove the listing right away. So first listing on Etsy taken care of is down. Now I am bookmarking those shops because I feel like I should check back just to make sure that that listing remains unavailable, you know, that they don't come back and list it, try to be sneaky and list it later. The other thing to keep in mind is neither of these Etsy sellers focused on crochet stuff. So they had quite a few different tarot cards on their page, which is what made me think that they just went searching for tarot card designs and found mine online and just took it, you know, to add to their tarot card collection. The second seller, this one got a little interesting. So the response that I got from the second seller was, prove that this is yours. Like, she was really bold. I mean, it was, I need proof that this is your design. And so for me, at first, I got really upset because I was already upset that all of this happened. And I was even more upset that there were some websites that I knew that I probably wasn't going to be able to go after and get my stuff removed. And so for her to tell me to prove that it was my work was a little infuriating at the moment, just to be honest. And I'm not one to get super over emotional about things like that. I try to be cool. And so I immediately sent her a message back that was a little frustrated. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. How would you like me to prove that this is my work to you? Obviously, you know that it's not your work, or you wouldn't be asking me to prove that it's mine. And I told her when I created the design, which was last year, it was actually August of 2020. I do have the metadata on my computer of the original file that I saved from Procreate, which is helpful. You know, that backdates to the original date of when I created the design. And, you know, I do have some Instagram posts and some social media posts where I first announced that I had created the design and that I was going to put it on a sticker. And so, you know, I had a little bit of proof, but I didn't feel like I owed that specific seller. You know, maybe if Etsy asked me to prove it, that it was mine. But for the seller to blatantly say, you know, you have to prove that this is your work was a little frustrating. So I told her when I created it, and then I gave myself maybe 5 to 10 minutes to just kind of breathe, slow down, you know, reread what I had sent her, think about what my options were. And like I said, at this time, I had already sent in the takedown notice through Etsy, but it hadn't been reviewed yet because this was on a Sunday. So I thought about it, and then I sent her another message. And this one was, I was calmer. This one, I said, you know, if you go to my Etsy shop, you will see that this design, the one I'm wearing, this is what we're talking about, is part of a trio of designs for fiber artists. So you've got the hooker, you've got the knitter, you've got the seamstress. All of them are done in the same style because it's my style. You know, I created all 3 of them. And then I followed that up with the fact that, you know, this is what I do full time. This is my livelihood. This is what I do to help support my family. And I'm just asking you to do the right thing. So that was my final message to her after, you know, I didn't hear anything from her about, you know, after that last email. And during this time, I was talking to a small group of friends that I have on Instagram who have been following me for quite some time. They pattern test for me. And I told them, you know, I think that my next step is going to have to be asking some of my Instagram followers to maybe send her some messages and just corroborate my story. Because at this point, I'm just trying to be as cooperative as possible. I don't want to create animosity and start a fight, you know, but I want to make sure that she does the right thing. And so I wouldn't want people sending her angry messages. I would just want them to send her a message to say, hey, I've been following this person for a long time. I know that this is her design. I was there when she released it. You know, I've watched the succession of additional designs. And at that point, I was ready to ask, you know, some of my followers to do that. And so I shared the link in one of my small chat groups, and I clicked on the link to make sure it was working, and she had removed the listing. So breathing a sigh of relief, at that point, both of the Etsy listings had been officially been removed, not because of Etsy, but just because of me reaching out and saying, hey, this is my work. You know, you may not have realized that this was an original piece of artwork that someone created, but it is, and it's mine. And I didn't even have to talk about the fact that under copyright law, it was protected, even if I didn't register the design. And so I felt like that was really important to share with you guys, that sometimes that's the best route. You know, sometimes you don't have to do anything that borders on legal activity. You can just reach out and educate the person and let them know, like, hey, this is my design. This is covered under copyright law because I created it. This is when I created the design. And I would just appreciate if you weren't trying to profit off of something that you didn't create yourself. So that was the first thing that I wanted to share. And then to follow up with the rest of it, on Monday, I got emails from Redbubble and Etsy, because if you remember, I told you guys that I sent out let me remember what it's called. There's a name for it. The DMCA. So that stands for Digital Millennium Copyright Act. So when you fill out one of those forms, it's called a DMCA takedown notification. So I filled those forms out on Redbubble and Etsy. Whoops, dropped my notes. Filled those forms out, and so by Monday, I figured I would hear something back. So Monday rolls around, and Etsy contacts me first, and they tell me that they reviewed my case and that they were not going to take action. So it's interesting because I don't know if that's because I did something wrong on the form. This is the first time I've had to fill out one of those forms, or I don't know if they went to go check out those listings and they were already removed. So Etsy doesn't really give any personal feedback. You know, it was just an automated response of like, we, you know, reviewed your case and we're throwing it out. Like, we're not going to do anything. And so my hope is that that's because the listings were already removed. So there was nothing that Etsy could do. And they probably clicked on those listings and it said this item is unavailable. And so they didn't see anything that warranted being taken down. So that's my guess. That's my hope, because I would hope that Etsy wouldn't have thrown that out with me providing what I did about the fact that it was my original design. Now, Redbubble, on the other hand, they said that they removed the listing and contacted the seller. Now, when you do this, and if you do get a notification that they're going to take the seller's listing down, the seller can do a counter notice. I think that's what it's called. If they believe that they did not infringe upon anyone's copyright. And so I feel like I'm going to need to sit tight just in case that happens on Redbubble, because I did not reach out to the person on Redbubble personally. I just did the takedown notice. So that'll be interesting to see if they come back and try to say that they're not infringing on copyright. So that's something to keep in mind. So the last one that I actually did something about was on eBay. So eBay does have information on how to report copyright infringement on their website, but they don't make it easy. So you have to print out a form, fill it out, mail it in. Like, you have to do all of these things. And I was like, I'm not going to do that unless I have to. I just messaged the seller. So I have an eBay account, so it made it easy. I could message the seller. This is the seller that was selling not only my Hooker Tarot card, but they were selling my Knitter Tarot card on a t-shirt. So I contacted them about both listings, and I said the same. I sent the same message that I sent on Etsy, and I'm going to add that in my description box. I'll add the wording that I used in case you guys ever need to use it, because I feel like it was straight and to the point. It wasn't mean. It wasn't, you know, threatening. It just said, this is the situation. I don't want to take any legal action. I just want you to remove the listing. So the seller on eBay got back to me on Monday, just like I think it was towards the end of the day on Monday. It might have been Tuesday morning. No, that's today. I think it was yesterday. And they said that the listing had been created by one of their new employees, and that this was a mistake, and that they would be removing both listings. So I have not double checked. I need to go back in and check and see if they've actually been removed and follow up. But it sounds like so far all of the listings that I pursued to try and get removed have in fact been removed, and I didn't have to do anything crazy for that to happen. And so I felt like that was really important to share with you guys, because as small creators, that's always a concern. Whether it's a pattern, whether it's something that you created, whether it's a design or a logo or something like that, you know, this is our livelihood. Whether it's, you know, extra income on the side or if it's your full-time job, it doesn't matter. You know, this is how you make money, and we have to make sure that we understand how we're protected and how we're covered. So I do want to dive into some notes that I took that are just about copyright law, and in the description of this video, I listed quite a few links for you to use to get more education, because I am not a legal person. And so I don't want to give any legal advice. And that's why the main focus of this video was the fact that you you can just send messages. That is one of the first ways that they actually tell you on a lot of the copyright resource and education websites to start, is just to send a message, just to let people know that it's your work, because I think there is a level of non-understanding from some people who don't realize that it's not okay to Google things and then sell designs that they find on Google. They actually have to create things themselves, or understanding licensing. You know, there are licensed vectors and clip art and elements that you can resell, but you have to know how to read the licensing. You may have to pay a fee. And so, you know, a lot of people aren't willing to educate themselves on how that works. And that's how you can get yourself in trouble. So let's go through just a little bit of this. So the information that I'm sharing with you guys, I've got my notes here, is from the Copyright Alliance website. So if you go to I think it's copyrightalliance.org, it's in the description box. You can read all kinds of FAQs about how copyright law affects small creators and how it can work for you and how you can avoid copyright infringement yourself. But there are tons of resources on there. But the biggest question that it starts with on a lot of these websites is, when is work protected by copyright? And it's really, some of it can be a little confusing, but I also included a couple of blog posts that are out there that are really great, that are more formatted towards like knitters and crocheters and patterns. So that's super helpful, because that may be more so what you're worried about. You know, if you're a pattern writer, you may wonder how, you know, your patterns are protected and what you can do about, you know, copyright patterns. So your work, if sufficiently original, is under copyright protection from the moment it is created and fixed in a tangible form. So this includes saving it as a digital file, which was my case. You know, once I saved my digital file and I had it as a tangible item, that protected me under copyright law. If you write down a song, it's protected by copyright. If you simply think about the song and sing it to yourself or sing it to another person, it is not protected by copyright because it's not fixed. So once you write your pattern and you publish it, it's protected under copyright law. Although registration, so this is where that changes. It goes from being protected automatically to actually registering your copyright. Registration is not required for copyright protection to exist in a work. Formal registration enhances the value of the copyright and the rights afforded to the copyright owner. Most importantly, registration is required in order for a creator to take legal action to enforce their copyright through litigation. So if you were going to go after someone for copying your work and profiting off of it, you would have to then have your copyright registered, which you do not have to do immediately. But if you decided, I'm going to sue this person, you would have to go get that copyright registered before you could take that legal action. But you don't miss out on it just because you didn't register your copyright as soon as the item was created. So registration also establishes a record with the U.S. Customs and Border Protection. It protects the copyright owner against the importation of infringing copies. Registration creates a public record of ownership that provides notice to would-be infringers and may prove helpful in potential ownership disputes. So like with me, if I had provided her with registration of my copyright, the girl that asked me to prove that it was mine, that would have shut the door completely, because I have proof. I have that I registered it with the Copyright Office. So that's something that I will probably have to start thinking about on some of my more popular designs, just to have that additional protection for those designs. Let's see. Okay, so this is interesting, and I thought this would be fun to share. So what does it mean for a work to be original? So that's what it says at the very top. If your work is sufficiently original, it is protected under copyright law. Okay, so what does it mean to be original? Original is a work must merely be independently created. So in other words, it cannot be copied from another. There's no requirement that the work be novel as it is in patent law. So if you're trying to have something patented, it's a very different situation. It doesn't really have to be super unique or imaginative or even inventive. A work need only demonstrate a very small amount of creativity in order to meet the originality requirement. Very few creations fail to satisfy the minimum creativity requirement. And I think that's kind of like okay, awesome. So I don't have to like make this crazy elaborate painting for it to be copyright protected. You know, it can be a simple design, like my hooker design, you know, something that I thought up and made on Procreate and saved. You know, so I thought that was really interesting. There's 3 basic requirements. The first one I just mentioned, which is original. The second requirement is a work of authorship. So to qualify as a work of authorship for the purposes of copyright protection, a work must be a product of creative expression that falls under a category of copyrightable subject matter. Copyrightable subject matter includes a wide range of works, including literary works, musical works, motion pictures, audiovisual works, derivative works, compilations, and many others. And they actually have a link under the many others on the Copyright Alliance website where you can go through and read all the different things that are covered. And then the third basic requirement to be protected under copyright law is that it must be fixed. And we talked about this a little earlier. To meet the fixation requirement, a work must be fixed in a tangible medium of expression. So again, just because you came up with a silly song and you sung it to your friend, it's not copyright protected because it's not written down anywhere. It's not a tangible piece. So protection attaches automatically to an eligible work the moment the work is fixed. A work is considered to be fixed so long as it is sufficiently permanent or stable to permit it to be perceived, reproduced, or otherwise communicated for a period of more than transitory duration. And Alicia Manning, I didn't realize you didn't have to register your item to have copyright protection. Yes, and that's why I'm doing this video, because I feel like that's super important for people to understand that no, you don't have to register it for it to be protected under copyright law. You only need it to be registered if you are planning on going after someone in court, taking them to court, suing someone over copyright infringement, then you would have to get it registered. So let's see, why should you register your copyright? So this was interesting too, because it's something I started reading into for some of my more popular designs. Since copyright protection is automatic from the moment a work is created, registration is not required in order to protect your work. However, there are numerous benefits to registration, and therefore it's highly recommended if it's feasible. These benefits include bringing an infringement action. So we talked about that, taking something to court and actually pursuing damage or monetary stuff for copyright infringement. It creates an evidence of validity, which is what I talked about, where if I needed to quickly provide proof of the fact that that is copyrighted work by me, it allows you to do that much more easily than trying to just say, well, I made it and here's the original file, you know. Let's see, it creates a public record, same kind of thing. It puts others on notice that your work is protected by copyright and that you are the copyright owner. And most of the other stuff that it talks about as the benefits are the fact that it's easier for you to fight it and under litigation. So if you're actually having to do something legally, it will have to be registered. So how do you register? To register your work with the Copyright Office, you have to submit an application, the appropriate filing fee, so it does cost money, and a copy of the work to be registered. So I would probably have to submit my digital file, so my original digital file. The general rule is that a separate application for registration should be submitted for each work together with a separate filing fee and deposit copy. Fees generally range from $25 to $140, and it really depends on the type of copyright, the type of product, I believe, because it says most fees are around $100. A listing of the most up-to-date fees can be found here, and I believe I put that in the description box so you guys can check out the fees for the different types of items that you would be registering for copyright protection. And then I also included a link to where you would go to register your work. So because the experience that I had was mainly focused on a design, so this was not at all about my patterns, I tried to do a little bit of research to see if I could find something more focused on copyright protection for patterns. And it seems to me, from what I've read, that that your patterns are definitely protected under copyright law. You're publishing a literary work, that it is a design for someone to follow. And I'm going to include a few more blog posts that I found, but there's one, I think it was like the Craft Alliance or something, that I put in the description box, that specifically talks about copywriting patterns. And someone had commented that it might be possible to actually put all of your patterns together and copyright them at one time, almost like copywriting a book. So that might be possible. And it would obviously save money if it works, because you would be copywriting them all at the same time. So I may have to look into that too, because I feel like that's really interesting. Let's see. Oh, this was really interesting. Okay, so, and I need to double check it, but the blog post was pretty thorough, and I felt like it was well written, and I felt like it was well researched. But it sounds like, and I think you guys have probably seen this, where you purchase a pattern and the person tells you that legally you are not allowed to create, to make items from that pattern and then sell them. And it sounds like, according to copyright law, that's not legally possible, because the actual work, that actual product, their pattern that they created, is copyrighted, and you cannot reproduce that and write it down and then publish it yourself and have copyright protection yourself because you copied that pattern. But what people do with that item, creating something based off of it and selling it, is not protected under copyright law. Now, again, I'm not a legal person, and that would be a good question for a legal person, but it makes sense. It makes sense that that's not something that you would be able to enforce legally, especially if you didn't register your pattern. So if you're just claiming the copyright side, you have to understand that you don't have the legal ability to go after someone and sue them if you didn't register your copyright. Doesn't mean that it's not yours, and it doesn't mean it's not covered under copyright protection, but you're not going to be able to actually go after them in court unless you register it. Maureen, thank you for sharing this valuable information. Your professionalism speaks volumes. By the way, love your content, your designs. Thank you so much, Maureen, and thanks for joining in. Yeah, I sometimes I really struggle with these live sessions, and I'm not always 100% sure what to cover and what to say. But I think a lot of it stems from the things that I go through myself, because I know that if I'm going through it, someone else may be going through it as well. And if I go ahead and just plan to talk about it, I don't forget. It would have been easy for me to write this down and say, I need to talk about copyright later on down the road. But I try to keep these topics open so that way, if something does happen, I can just go ahead and talk about it. I can go ahead and share it, and share my experiences with guys, and hope that it's helpful if you run into some of the same issues. Alicia, that was my next thought. The items created from the pattern able to be sold. Yeah, it sounds like that's fair, that's free game. Now whether or not you incur the wrath of a designer sending you threatening messages, I don't know. Because it's totally their legal right to send you a message and be mad, but it doesn't mean that they have any ability to threaten legal action. And again, that would be a question for a lawyer. I have some connections from PPA, and I would love to, I feel like I need to write up a blog post and then see if one of the legal department reps would be willing to look it over for me and just make sure that it is all correct, because I feel like that would actually be great to include that, if that is something that can legally be enforced under copyright law, because I think that's really interesting. But let me know. I don't have a ton more to talk about. That was really the gist of it. For the rest of the video, I'll probably talk a little bit about some of the ways that you can avoid infringing on copyright yourself, if that's ever something that you're concerned about. But let me know in the comments if you have any other questions about how I handled the situation, about how you might handle a situation yourself. And let me know if you have additional questions, and I can make sure I get to them before the live is over. Alicia, I feel like the pattern designer couldn't really control the selling of the finished items. Look at the different versions we see even in pattern test pictures. Yeah, exactly. So that would be an interesting question to try to get answered for sure as to whether or not that would be legally enforceable. Doesn't sound like it, but I don't know. Okay, so how do you avoid infringing on other people's copyright? The first thing is not taking images off of Google. So we mentioned this earlier. I truly do believe that that's probably what happened with my design. There are lots of photos of my design out there, photos from reviews on Etsy, photos from my bonfire shop. You know, if you Google it, it's out there, you know. And so it would be fairly easy for someone to find an image on Google and blow it up, cut out the actual design and stick it on something of their own. You know, I know for me, I was not very good at knowing that this was not okay until I worked at PPA. So when I worked in the fitness industry, this was 5 or 6 years ago, I would make flyers and, you know, ads and social media ads and things like that. And to talk about fitness classes, talk about fitness programs and events. And if I needed a picture of a girl doing a squat or something, I would go on Google, grab a picture of a girl doing a squat and stick it on my flyer. That's a huge no-no. And so I know that because I was really just, you know, unaware and I didn't realize that that was not okay, that I can't blame other people for not realizing it's not okay either, you know, because I was at one point just as clueless that it's no big deal. If it's on Google, it's fair game. I can take it. I can sell it. You know, it's not a big deal. I can use it in marketing. It wasn't until I started working at PPA that I realized, ooh, that's a no-no. Like, you can't do that. There are a lot of photographers out there who make their living creating stock photography, you know, creating their photography for big name brands, getting big contracts so that people can commercially license and use their images. And if you are using their images to create items that are making you money in any way, shape, or form, then you are putting yourself at risk to get in a lot of legal trouble. Something that's really interesting that happened while I was at PPA, there was a law that passed called the CASE Act. And the CASE Act is working to revamp copyright law to make it easier and more affordable for small creators to go after copyright infringers in court. So right now it's really expensive to take something to small claims court. And unless you know that someone was making a lot of money selling your work, it's never going to be worth taking it to court. The CASE Act is working to change this and to make it less expensive for, say, a photographer to take someone to court over utilizing their images without their permission. So if you think about that, you're putting yourself in even more risk if you're just going on Google, snatching images and using them on your website, on social media, in marketing materials. You know, you want to make sure that you are either paying for the rights to use stock images, or, you know, you can go to the free stock image websites, like Pexels is a good one. Canva, if you pay for the premium edition of Canva, you get access to a lot more of the stock images that have, you know, true licenses that you can read through and make sure that you're using them correctly. But the best thing you can do is be original. You know, I mean, you need to create something that is unique and yours. Put in the extra effort to make sure that it's something that you created. Work on your own photography skills so that you're not having to rely on stock images or finding images online. Give credit when you do. So if you are featuring someone else's image, or if you're using an image on a blog post that's from another website, then you want to give full credit, link back, ask permission. You can always reach out and say, hey, do you mind if I use this image? But all of those things will help protect you and make sure that you have a paper trail of the fact that you did all the right things before you used an image or something that wasn't yours. Let's see. what else can you do? Oh, for pattern writers, I know I get a lot of questions about people who are afraid to put patterns out there, because what if someone's already done it and they come after me saying that I infringed upon their work? So copyright law covers things that you came up with on your own, independently, and it doesn't have to be completely unique. So if you look at a situation where, I know, for instance, I'm going to be coming out with a hat this fall that just uses single crochet stitches to make the hat. So that's a very simple, design that I'm sure has been done before. I have a feeling I can't be the first person who's going to be releasing a hat that only uses single crochet stitches to create it. But I do have a unique way of writing up my patterns. I'm going to use my own verbiage. I'm going to use my own photography, and I'm going to release that pattern as my own, because it is, I'm going to be creating the item. I'm not going to be using someone else's pattern to create or write my pattern. It will be my own unique piece. And so one of the things that I don't know if I shared this blog post or not, but I'll be sure to add this in the description. There was another blog post that talked about the fact that general ideas and general techniques are not covered under copyright law. So the single crochet stitch is not covered under copyright law. So if two people come out with a hat created using single crochet stitch, you're not going to be able to sue the other person unless they took your pattern, copied your pattern, all the verbiage that you wrote, the way that you wrote the pattern up, and copied word for word. It's not going to be a copy of your pattern. It's, you guys had the same idea, but ideas aren't copyrighted. Actual tangible items are copyrighted. So the pattern writing world can get a little more difficult, and I think that's why that's one of the things where you would maybe want to seek more legal advice if you were looking to register your patterns, or get some of those questions answered. And, at some point I may have to find like a copyright expert and see if they'll come on and do a panel with me, and we can do a Q&A with them about pattern writing and what's covered and what's not, and see, if they can give even more in-depth answers. Because I know that's a big question that a lot of people have, is mainly about patterns. If you are really concerned and you want to be really careful, and you don't want a designer to think that you copied their work, you can always do searches. So I would start with the two big websites of Ravelry and Etsy, because I know those are two of the big ones that people use to find and publish their patterns. Do a search for the item that you want to make. So say you want to make fingerless gloves. Maybe there's a specific stitch involved, so you could search that stitch, search fingerless gloves. That will let you kind of see what's already out there. If you have a name in mind for your gloves or for your cardigan, you could search that and see if someone has already created something very similar. And then you can, Audible, if you want to, use a different name, or maybe use that name for a different item. If someone has created a Lucy cardigan and you're like, well, I know it's probably not copyright protected, I can create my own Lucy cardigan, but you want to be unique. And if you're looking at it from a marketing aspect, you want to make sure that people aren't going to get you confused with the other person. So you may want to take a different route because of that. Maybe you'll make a Lucy hat or something instead, and change the name of your cardigan. So looking at it from that perspective of marketing, it's really great to go in and kind of see what's out there, do a couple of searches before you decide on your final name. If you have a certain design in mind, you can go out and see what's already out there. And if something looks very, very similar, maybe you'll tweak something so that yours is unique in a different way. Maybe putting a different style of pockets or a different style of ribbing so that your item stands out. And that's what I'm going to have to do, especially this winter time. I want to do some more sweaters and cardigans, and I want to make sure that I do everything I can to create something that's unique and different. But I know that there's only so many ways to create one style of cardigan. So it's just being aware and being, I think some of it's just respectful. So being respectful of the fact that there are a lot of designers out there. All of us are trying to be unique. So sometimes just putting in a little bit of effort on the forefront to say, I'm going to go ahead and see what's out there before I make my decision, and I think that can be super helpful. Lacey Horton, do I offer classes in design? So my registration for my pattern writing classes had tapered off quite a bit. So I decided to take a little break. Usually I'll take a month or two off, and then I will come back and start offering a class once a month again. Usually my classes are on Saturdays and Sundays at noon. I think they're at noon. Sometimes I think they start at 10 a.m. Eastern time. But I know that's really early on the West Coast. But so I think it might be 12. But they're 2 hours long, 2-hour workshops on designing patterns. And like I said, I had just had a lower turnout and lower registration numbers. So I just gave it a little break because I was doing them once a month. And I'll probably start offering them again, maybe after the holidays. So maybe in January, I'll start offering those classes again. Let's see. Alicia, maybe adding the copyright expert to a class would be beneficial. Yeah, probably. I mean, honestly, I feel like these YouTube lives are super helpful. And, you know, I try to offer what I can for free, you know, when I'm able to. I really do enjoy coming on live and sharing with you guys. The classes are just a lot, you know, putting that information out there and trying to answer questions live, which is why I started charging for the classes. You know, it's 2 hours, and you know, you have access to me the full time live on Zoom so that you can ask those questions and get very specific if you have things that you know, are wondering about. You know, so like I said, I just had to take a little break because I mean, it's, you know, I have to pay for the premium version of Zoom to do the classes so that I can be on there for longer than 2 hours with the class. And if I only have 1 or 2 people signing up for the class, then it pretty much covers my Zoom subscription, you know. So I have to make sure that there's enough people interested before I start offering the classes again. That's a long answer short. Yes, I will still offer them. It just may be a couple of months before I put them out there again. Be sure to join my email list. I think that's a link in the description because I'll definitely send out an email once I schedule the next one for sure. Let's see. Ellen, the class is very informative. Yes, Ellen is a class graduate, pattern writing class graduate. Okay, well, I think that's everything for today, unless you guys have any more questions on copyright. I'll give you guys a few updates while I'm here before we head out for the day, and have a great rest of your Tuesday. I have a giveaway happening on my Instagram page. So this coffee mug, Think Yarny Thoughts. This was my newest design that I came out with this month. It is available on like t-shirts and sweatshirts and, you know, all that fun stuff. But I'm giving away one of these 15-ounce coffee mugs on my Instagram page right now. And I'm going to be announcing the winner on Friday. So if you don't follow me on Instagram, you can check me out at Pink Sheep Design over on Instagram. That's really where I'm the most active, but I'm trying to grow over here on YouTube and start offering more of my lives here for people who maybe aren't super active on Instagram or don't like using Instagram. What else? I go live Fridays on Instagram to do my crochet and chat. So that's where I really just kind of update you guys on what's happening. We just chat about whatever is new, but that'll be happening. And then next Tuesday, okay, so I have 2 ideas and they're going to happen at some point. They may not happen immediately, but I don't know if you guys have heard of Alt Knots. So ALT and KNOTS, Alt Knots, here on Instagram. She runs the community, the Ghoul Squad. She's really big here on YouTube. She has her lives on Saturdays and Fridays. And I love her to death. So I just love her personality. She's got a very approachable, welcoming personality. I enjoy watching her lives, and our aesthetics are very different. So if you like look at her Instagram versus mine, we are pretty much night and day. Yes, Kayla, we had a chat this morning. So every month, at least once a month or every couple of months, I try to do a live Pink Sheep and Friends where I chat with other makers who I think are doing really cool things. And we talk about, you know, just what their goals are for their business and how they got started and all of that fun stuff. And so I reached out to Kayla, and she is going to be joining me probably next Tuesday here on Instagram. She's going to come on here live with me, and we're going to chat about whatever is happening, and chat about her business and my business and just some of the things that we've done to grow and to make our businesses successful. So really excited about that. And that is either going to be next week or the week after. So it'll be within the next 2 weeks that we're, shut up, I want to see that. OMG, how cool. Yes, I thought so too. That was really fun. Like I said, we had a chat this morning. It was great. I hopped on a Zoom call with her and we had a great conversation. So I'm excited about that. The other Tip Tuesday that I really want to do, but I have to make sure, yes, I'm going to talk about that, Ellen. I have to make sure that I have enough people who are willing to join in. But there has been a lot of talk lately about the dynamic between pattern testers and pattern designers. And I have a really, really close-knit group of pattern testers that work with me. To me, they're a part of my team. Like we work together. I feel like my designs would not be as successful as they are without them, because I truly appreciate their feedback and helping me tweak the design and make sure that it's the best design it can be. And we have a great dynamic, but I get a lot of talk from them about struggles with other designers and ways that the designers may be creating a not so great experience for their pattern testers and maybe don't even realize that they're doing it. So it made me think I really, really want to do a panel discussion with pattern testers. So if you are a regular pattern tester and you would like to come on to a live panel discussion with me to just chat about your experience, and I would like to have at least 3 or 4 people aside from me on the discussion for one of these Tip Tuesdays for us to talk about the experience of being a pattern tester and what are some of the things that pattern designers do that create great experiences and what are some of the things that pattern designers do that create not so great experiences and how could they change that. And I think it would be a great opportunity for people on both sides to give their, to learn something. So from the pattern tester side of how do you deal with designers that are being negative or maybe aren't treating you with the respect you feel like you deserve. But also, what are some of the things that designers have done that have created amazing experiences for you and created a community and allowed you to create these connections? And how do you deal with, feeling like you need to blacklist a designer and don't want to design for them anymore? Or, there's a lot of things that we can discuss. And so I'm really, really interested in doing that. I know that I have one person on board for sure, and it looks like Ellen is on board as well. So that would be 2. So I need to get that gathered together and get the details. So maybe we'll do that the week after next to give me a little more time to get a few more people on board. And maybe I'll have another pattern designer on there. So we'll have maybe 2 pattern designers and a bunch of pattern testers, and we can just have a great frank conversation about the experience and the dynamic between pattern designer and tester, and how we can make this better for everyone, because I know pattern testers work for free. It's something that they love to do, but there are things that designers can do to make the experience worth it, even if they're putting, all of that effort in and they're not actually getting paid, So I think that's interesting. And we can also touch on size inclusivity because that's a huge deal right now with designers either putting out or not putting out size inclusive designs and, what that does for our community or doesn't do for our community, and what we can do to make all of that a better situation for everybody. So that's coming up. And then, yes, so Ellen brought up, I will be going live with Ginger of Affordably Crafted, that's Kim, of the Yarn Geek. Yes, so Yarn Geek, not Kim. So Kim's Affordably Geeky, and then Ginger is Yarn Geek. So I will be going live with Ginger tomorrow morning. It is 8 a.m. Central Time, so it'll be 9 a.m. my time. So we're going to go live and we're going to talk about Instagram. So I was on Ginger and Kim's live this past weekend on Saturday, and she was saying how she was going to go live this Wednesday to talk about Instagram and her experience with Instagram. And I spoke up and said, you know, if she wanted me to join in, great. Instagram is definitely, it was kind of my baby. It was my main platform for growth as I was building Pink Sheep Design as a brand. So I'm really excited to go live with her and just chat about that, chat about the things that I've done to grow my Instagram account the right way, you know, not using bots or algorithms, you know, just being myself and being, you know, consistent. So I think that'll be a great conversation. I'm really excited. I love going live with Ginger and Kim. They've been instrumental in my growth here on YouTube of getting my confidence up to start going live here and bringing you guys more good stuff here on YouTube. Last couple announcements. I released hooks this past week. So if you haven't checked those out, we have new fire glitter ombre hooks in the Etsy shop. Those are our 3D printed hooks, me and my husband, the captain. Those were released last week. So those are in the shop. They're from 10 millimeter all the way up to 25 millimeter. And then what else? There was at least one more thing I wanted to mention. I should have written it all down because I know I'm going to forget. Oh, my Learn to Crochet series and kit is live. So as you guys know, the majority of my patterns from Pink Sheep are focused on beginners. That was my goal. I wanted all of my patterns to be super beginner friendly, have lots of photos. And now that I'm getting better at YouTube tutorials, having more video tutorials to go along with my patterns. But I now have a full Learn to Crochet series. It's a playlist here on my YouTube channel. It has an intro with the tools that you'll need to follow the series. And then it's 6 videos that go all the way from creating your slip knot and your chain to single crochet, half double crochet, how to crochet in the round, how to create a magic circle. And then the very last video is what I'm calling my sampler hat. So it is a free pattern tutorial that you guys can try now. And it is just a simple beanie that uses all of those tools. So you'll start with a magic circle, you'll do a couple of rounds of double crochet, then you'll start to alternate single crochet and half double crochet. So it really is a sampler. You know, you're taking all of these tools that you learned through the playlist, the Learn to Crochet playlist, and you're putting it all together to create your first hat. Well, it won't be you guys' first hat, but for those that follow the Learn to Crochet playlist, then it would be their first project. So that's live. I'm so excited to finally be releasing it. I haven't even mentioned it on YouTube yet. I mean, on Instagram yet, because I've had other things that I've been sharing and focusing on. But it's been in the works for a long time. And I also am now selling a Learn to Crochet kit in my Etsy shop that is paired with the playlist. So if someone finds my playlist and wants to purchase the kit, they can go to my Etsy shop. They'll get a skein of yarn, a hook, stitch markers, and a tapestry needle, all in the kit, along with a card explaining, you know, where to go to find my videos. They'll also get a free pattern download. So they'll have instructions on how to reach out to me once they're ready, and they can download one of my crochet patterns for free. So there's that, and it's been super exciting. So thank you guys all again so much for your support. I just appreciate you guys and being here on this journey as I grow and as I learn and being there to be a part of that. Please be sure to like this video if you haven't, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't. If you want to, I would love to continue sharing new videos with you. The next video tutorial that I'm going to be releasing is for my super chunky scarf. I have a super chunky cowl that I've got the video created. I have a headband pattern that's going to be coming that is a full tutorial. My Sneaky Buns bucket hat pattern is now live because I reached 500 subscribers. So you guys can check that out. But the growth is amazing and it's exciting, and I'm having a lot of fun. And be on the lookout because my Halloween designs are coming. So I did a pre-order of my Halloween designs for my pattern testers, and we'll have to talk about that when I do the pattern panel about ways that you can incentivize pattern testers. But all of my pattern testers get an opportunity to pre-order my designs. And the Halloween designs are live for pre-order, and I shared them in my Instagram stories. So I think they're still up in stories if you're interested. and checking them out. But those will be available in September. So you'll have plenty of time to order them and have them in October. And there's 3 designs. So I'm really excited. It's like apparel and mugs and stuff. And stitch markers. That's the last thing. So these are the knit stitch markers. They are not in the shop yet, but we were asked to create the solid stitch markers for knitters, but the crochet versions are in the shop. So we have sheep heads and kitty cat heads that are crochet stitch markers that are live too. So we had a lot happening this week. It was a little crazy, but fun and exciting. And yeah, so now that I'm out of breath and out of coffee, it is time for me to head out. But join me Friday on Instagram if you're on there. I'll be live. I also post those to YouTube after the fact. So if you're not on Instagram but you want to watch the Friday Crochet and Chat, I will upload those here to YouTube for you. But I hope you guys have an amazing week, amazing rest of your week. Be sure to check out the giveaway. And like I said, join me on Friday if you'd like for Crochet and Chat. And I hope this was informational and helpful. And be sure to check the description box for all the resources that you need to learn more about copyright, how to protect yourself, how to protect your work. And until next time, happy hooking, friends. We'll talk soon. Bye.